This is unacceptable. You can't make any bones about it. If you're the St. Louis Cardinals, you cannot lose a series, let alone two, to the worst team in baseball, the Colorado Rockies. This is STL Sports Central Cardinals postgame. I'm Luke Slaybaugh. That's Grant Salzman. He went to school at a good place. He's the smart one here. Grant, your thoughts on this 6-5 loss at the hands of the Rockies here on this Wednesday?
Pretty embarrassing. I can accept one loss in a series that you should sweep either way, really. You're by far the much more talented team, but losing 2 out of 3 to one of the worst teams in modern baseball history is unacceptable. And it's embarrassing. I was at a loss for words when it happened. It was like that shock that hits you of there's no way that they just gave up 2 runs to one of the worst teams in the 9th inning. And on top of that, it's the uncompetitive at bats for 4 innings. I think there was 5 innings. There was 15 straight batters retired by the Rockies, giving up a run in I think 5 of the last 6 innings. It's bad. It's really bad.
And by contrast, Colorado Rockies put the leadoff man on in every single inning from the 4th on. Granted, they didn't create runs in each one of those scenarios. However, they kept the competitive at-bats going, whereas bottom 7, bottom 8 for the Cards, not a whole lot cooking. And so it's a testament. This is a young Rockies team. No one on that team under the age or over the age of 27, they said on the broadcast. And so it's a morale booster for them. But again, they're 56 games under 500. The season has long been lost for them. And dropping the season series to the Rocks is it's deflating. The Cardinals are back to 500. They are now 19-16 in 1-run games, dropping this rubber game. And to your point, batting $148 with runners in scoring position for this entire series.
Yeah, I mean it's the situational hitting as well. Even when the Cardinals were adding the run support, a lot of that was coming off of home runs, man on first. Once they got a guy to second or third, it just kind of fell apart for them, and that's been the frustration. I think that was more of a frustration on was that Monday they lost? Yeah, Monday with that loss was the frustration with runners in scoring position. Today it was just about getting runners on base.
Right. Brendan Donovan, of course, with that clutch 2-run hit to salvage the 1 game in this series, and then the 0-for-9 game with runners in scoring position certainly hurts. We'll work in reverse today, talking about JoJo Romero's top of the 9th. Left-hander. I was ready to wax poetic about how much of a win-win this trade was with Philly. Edmundo Sosa getting some good playing time at second base over for the Phillies. And Romero pitching to a 1.98 ERA entering this game, 3 for 3 on save ops for the season. And immediately you could tell that the command was just off, missing low and away to Kyle Karros. And that pretty much, putting a runner on. Pedro Pajes taking one off of the thigh as well. Had Romero just standing out there on the mound for a little bit during the injury delay. And then Hunter Goodman, the all-star, coming in for the 2-run bomb. Your thoughts on JoJo Romero, Grant?
Yeah, I mean, first off, what a weapon Hunter Goodman is for that Rockies team. He finds a way. It seems like he's not great defensively, but man, can he hit some home runs for them. And he's great power off the bench. He's going to be a guy, I think, that could be a 40 home run guy in the future. A couple comments here. Aaron Dodson says, Luke and Grant, it's pathetic is what it is. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's pathetic. I think that's unacceptable, pathetic. All those are the words to describe that game. Chewy says, why is JoJo acting as the closer against right-handed batters when we have the GOAT O'Brien for that? Now, I'll say this is I think that right now, I mean, obviously in that situation, there was only one lefty coming up for the Rockies, and I believe he was pinch hit for. But I think there's no closer on this squad yet. I think it's really the lanes. What 3 batters does the team feel like are the best for each pitcher? O'Brien got hit pretty hard. He found a way to get out of it. I think both those line drives and Nootbaar were pretty lucky that those didn't find a way for hits. And Romero, it just didn't have it. To your point, Luke, of missing outside, Pajes goes down, then he hangs one across the middle for Goodman. But I don't know about you, but I don't really have any issue with Romero being in there. Obviously, he lost the game, but I don't think looking back, putting Romero there instead of O'Brien is the wrong move.
Right. Hindsight's 2020. You could say just gut reaction that, Warren Schaefer, outmanaged Ali and that Romero was the wrong call. But you're very limited in what you have out there. I
Yeah.
don't Fernandez warming up there towards the end of the ninth, but I don't know how long of a leash O'Brien's got. As you mentioned, he was hit pretty hard, some balls hit on the screws. So it's unfortunate the one walk that Cardinals pitchers give up comes back and bites them. Granted, it's a one-out home run for Goodman, so he might have come up in the clutch anyway, but it is the difference maker there. And the Cardinals put a good charge into the ball there in the ninth, had a line drive base hit
Yeah.
taken away from Mickey Moniak, and then Sajasi, his fly ball just falling short of the left field wall there. It's unfortunate that it wiped out. We'll start with Michael McGreevy. Eighth
Yeah.
start of the year for McGreevy. It wipes out his third quality start, back-to-back quality outings by McGreevy. I think the crux of this for him,
Mm-hmm.
poise. We've mentioned this before on the show and on the telecasts as well. He didn't hurt himself at all. And he did get squared up a couple of times,
Yeah.
but he didn't let the issues compound. He did his darndest against a team that was very pesky and got after him in those later innings.
Yeah, easily in the fourth, fifth, and sixth. I mean, he gave up a run in each one. It easily could have been 2-3 runs in each inning. He found a way. I think it was the fourth inning, might have been the fifth, where there was a little more trouble. And he only allowed it to one. Sometimes that's what it is limiting damage once you find your way into some trouble. And I know there's a lot of talk about the offense, but 5 runs of support is pretty good. I mean, I don't know if you can put this on the offense. Obviously, it should be more against a team this poor, but McGreevy looked good today. I have no complaints about his outing today.
Also wiped out a pretty darn good performance by Pedro Pages, hitting out of the 9-hole, 2-run double, and throwing out a runner as well. I thought it was one of his better games and more consistent showings, and of course wiped away there. But Pages got the scoring started. I really enjoyed, at least for the first 4 to 5 innings,
Yeah.
the timely approach with 2 outs and 2 strikes. That was, I think, it started with Jordan Walker striking out. They had keyed in on Austin Gomber's knuckle curve. At least I think Walker did, and he was waiting on it. He takes a 4-seam fastball middle at 91. So clearly wasn't hunting fastball there. And then with 2 outs, Nootbaar singles to right. He gets a fastball over the plate that he wants. So JC on a 1-2 count hits a changeup low and outside to center field. We saw Ivan Herrera put bat on ball earlier in the game as well on that. And then Pages, 0-2 count, 2 outs. Knuckle curve almost scraping the ground there at 76. And he hits it to the left center field gap to score 2 runs. That was 2 out cooking. I thought Pages did a good job today and, of course, soured by the result, but something you'd love to see out of your 9-hole.
Yeah, I thought Pedro Pages has been hitting much better lately. I think that what we saw earlier in the year was, even in the last few weeks, it was, is Pedro Pages' defense is dipping and his batting is almost unplayable. Is he worth it still, or are Herrera and Pozo worth the starts? Now that the offense has tipped back up, it seems like the defense has tipped a little bit back up for Pages as well, which I think is big for him and for the confidence the Cardinals have in him as a 9-hole hitter.
It's interesting. I wasn't that offended by the defensive lineup today, or at least the alignment they had out there with Herrera in left, Newton center. Nootbaar can cover some pretty good ground out there, and then Walker in right until the later innings. Unfortunately, that thought came back to bite me there in the top of the 7th. Kyle Karros doubling in that left center field gap, and kind of a miscommunication, pseudo butt fumble situation where Herrera is like, I got it, no, you get it, trying to pick the ball up off the ground, and Karros probably could have gone an extra 90 feet there. It doesn't matter. He scores on the sac fly anyway by Braxton Fulford. But until that moment, and I don't know if Herrera got dinged up at all in that play. They took him out later, but that might have just been for defensive purposes. That was a borderline comical moment, but kind of depressing in the grand scheme of things as Colorado just kept inching closer with a play like that.
Yeah, there were some moments of uncertainty. I think Nootbaar in center even had a weird little play where he's tracking back and he kind of catches the ball like over his head like this. A little bit of, like that didn't look too good. But at the end of the day, every out was actually made, I thought. And even to your point of that little goofy play there, what needed to happen ended up happening. The ball got in, no one got extra bases. But yeah, I don't mind having Nootbaar in center if it's going to open a spot for Herrera and maybe get Victor Scott a little bit of a rest from day to day.
Right. Some more good two-strike hitting. Lars Nootbaar leading off the bottom of the fourth, got a slider in on the hands. He's out on his front foot on that swing. Like, he could have easily been tied up there for strike three, but he kept his hands back. Credit to him to extend the lead to 3-1. And then Alec Burleson also sitting knuckle curve, 0-2. That was a rope to right field. Saw the young girl on the broadcast was fighting for that ball there on the concourse, and she got it. Made it a 5-2 game. Mason Wynn had singled right before that. So for the first half of this game, through 5 frames, we saw a Cardinals team that, while it didn't have runners in scoring position that frequently, were getting timely hits and doing well against their former teammate. Well, maybe there's not any former Austin Gomber teammaate left on
Maybe
this
in the
club,
minors. Definitely in the minors.
Former 4th-round pick in 2014, Austin Gomber, who had missed a lot of this season due to shoulder soreness. They stuck him pretty well. Forgot to mention, by the way, off the top, in my fury, in my anger, this show is powered by Gray Bar. Cardinals Postgame is also presented by DraftKings. Any final thoughts before we move on to block 2?
I would say and I want to talk about this in the second section of the overall impact. It just feels like a big missed opportunity. But one more thing about the actual game is there's a comment, and I'm trying to see it. Someone, Gorman has regressed, totally lost at the plate. I would agree with that today. He had some very uncompetitive at bats. I think the final line was 0 for 4 with a couple strikeouts. It was, 0 for 4 with 1 strikeout, but it didn't look good today at all. And that's what I think the frustrating part with Nolan Gorman is. At times he looks, wow, this guy, he's hitting that stride and he's taking off. And then at times it looks like he's not taking a major league at bat in 50 days. Like it's all or nothing. And he's not consistent enough with that all or nothing. Some guys are feast or famine, but at least, every other day they're going to be feasting. With Nolan Gorman, it's a little more in between.
I talk about this a lot. I do a show out on the East Coast, and this game does not favor the 3 true outcome players anymore. Home run, walk, strikeout. If Nolan Gorman was working elite at bats and putting some presence either at the top part of the order or playing lights out defense, which he is not, then you could make an argument that he has value added to this team. What confuses me, maybe not so much confuses me, but kind of depresses me, is that third base was his natural position down in Phoenix. Like, this should be working. The stars should be aligning right now after he had shown that he could play second base at an adequate level, and the arm has been off, sometimes a little bit lacking. And it's almost like the futility at the plate has influenced kind of what's going on between the ears out in the field. And as a former ball player, whatever, high school, go Priory, all that stuff, like sometimes that will get under your skin, right? It's unfortunate because there's so much potential there, but you haven't seen it over a really large sample size.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. When you're frustrated thinking, oh my gosh, why can't I get a hit? That's going to carry over in anything, any part of your life. When you're not succeeding in something, it's going to carry over to other parts. And that's what I think is happening with Gorman. I also Luke, I don't know if he's that good of a third baseman. I honestly even if he was hitting 600, I still think that some of these errors would be happening for Nolan Gorman.
It's kind of a log jam of people who profile better as first baseman. And we'll talk about that in a second. But first, wanted to let you all know that this show is sponsored by DraftKings. Crown is yours. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code STL Sports. That's code STLSPORTS for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
I see a comment right now in the chat from Charlie Smith that says both. Actually, we can't put that on the screen, but we need to be more fiery and fury. I don't know, Charlie, if you saw me off the top. I was doing my best. You know, I don't know. I've worked in places where it's all fire and fury and it's all coming down. The economy relative to Tennessee football, or in this place, Cardinals baseball. It is infuriating. And a thought crushed my mind, Grant, earlier
Yeah.
today, and I was thinking about it now in the context of a loss. It makes more sense to bring this up. This Cardinals team has a mix of younger players and then some guys who have been around for a while, some veterans that they signed to free agent contracts. I was trying to think about this today before I found the actual answer online. Who is the Cardinals' best player?
I would probably still say, and I think some of the chat's angry with him, but I would say Brendan Donovan.
Now, Baseball Reference, if you ascribe to the BWAR stat, or wins above replacement, that's never been T, but just in the context of this, chat by Dinescu Ruddy, Mason Wynn.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think, comes from the glove with a 995 fielding percentage and playing some stellar defense. The bat has been a little bit below league average in terms of OPS plus, and the OPS as well is sitting around 700 right now, the last time I checked. And so that's kind of the thing that bothers me, is that the talent level, and I believe this is why Chaim Bloom was brought in and taking over, is okay to good.
Yeah.
In years prior, even when we're talking about teams that were not successful in their postseason chases, you go back 10 years ago to the Mike Matheny team that lost in the division series. You knew that Jason Hayward was putting together an all-star Gold Glover type of season. Even further back, the teams of yore with Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, those guys in the mid to late 2000s, you kind of knew that there was an elite, fear-striking type of presence in the lineup. And I wonder if the plan, in air quotes, was by this point, 3 years from the offset of Ollie Marmol taking over, is that you would have had one of Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, Nolan Gorman just take off.
Yeah.
Some other guys didn't profile as that. Lars Nootbaar was never supposed to be this perennial all-star, 5-tool threat type of guy. He developed into something good. Now, with the loss of the veterans that all retired near together, Waino and Yachty and Pujols and all that, you're kind of left with you have an aged Arenado and you let go of Goldschmidt. And now there really isn't anything. There's kind of this power vacuum there. There is not one presence in this lineup or rotation that strikes the fear into anyone. It's kind of a who's who of good to players. And that can work. A team dynamic can work, especially 80s and Whitey ball and all that. But this game's a lot different. And it does kind of cater to stars on the talent level, not so much the presence or the brand. We don't care about that in St. Louis. But in terms of talent, who we got?
I would say the last time the Cardinals had a superstar was 2023 with Nolan Arenado, probably. I mean, since 2023 is not played like a superstar, and maybe even 2022, but there's not one right now. I think the hope is maybe a Wynn Weatherholt combo up the middle, or could be that new superstar combination. But yeah, it's pretty disheartening right now with the lack of talent the Cardinals have. Maybe you could argue Sonny Gray on his day isn't one of the best pitchers in the MLB, but he hasn't been consistent enough to really get that. But also you look at how many games the Cardinals have won when he starts. That's pretty ace material, even though his numbers might not be there. I think they've won 20 games when he's the starter. That's pretty good.
Yeah, my subscription to this is that if you have to talk yourself into someone being above average or into a star contract, if you have to talk someone into $100 million contract, they're not really it. I even think like the contract that Tyler O'Neill got with Baltimore, like he's had 230 home run seasons and one in a Redbirds uniform 4 years ago, and even still the market was like, we don't know. Well, like it's not consistent enough.
Yeah.
There's not boomsticks in this lineup, and Sonny Gray, while he's been a very good pitcher over the course of his career and has at times flashed top of the rotation stuff, at this stage in his career probably uh, doesn't stack up against another team's number one in the postseason, which the Cardinals increasingly are backdooring their way out of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that I wanted to get to that. That is, I think, the most disappointing thing. You'd think, oh, if we win 2 or 3 against the Rockies, at worst, we'll stay 3 games out. The Mets will lose 1 game to the Braves. Probably we'll win 2 or 3. We'll stay packed with the Mets. Be 3 games out. Now you lose 2. You're 4.5 back, and before you play another baseball game, you could be 5.5 games back out of that wild card like that. I think that's what is really, really disappointing in the grand scheme of things. And I'm not saying that this team was a playoff team or they were going to make the playoffs, but having some competitive baseball in September would have been a very good thing to have for the Redbirds.
You got to get some people back in the seats down there, just because looking at those panorama shots and those pans, it's this is not. I used to live downtown, and it was a treat, and you could really feel the swagger and the vibe down there. It ain't there.
No.
The Cardinals carry on, and they look forward to welcoming in, who else but the New York Yankees? Thank goodness we are off tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're gonna let this sit. We're gonna take up smoking for one day, and then we'll be back figuring out what to do against the Bronx Bombers, who are also circling the drain. Kind of fun to see. Again, I said I do a East Coast baseball show, and this is extraordinary. But Friday, 7:15 first pitch on FanDuel Sports Network. Andre Palante going up against right-hander Luis Heel. Grant, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a big chance to bounce back for the Cardinals. I mean, the Yankees have not been playing great. Palante definitely needs it. And Hill has not been a top of the rotation stuff the Yankees, I think, hope he can be at some point in his career. He just hasn't been it lately. I think I don't know if there's any series you want to bounce back against, it's this one again. And I'm not saying that that's for the playoffs, just for this young group to then add the Yankees to their scalp of teams they've beaten series in the past few weeks. I think that could get some momentum rolling again. But I think it's big for Palante trying to find some type of bounce back after his last start.
An aside, this is my first time doing post-game here on this channel. I've done the Battlehawk show, and I've done 365, particularly on the weekends. And this is the most action we've ever gotten in the chat. It amazes me, the amount of passion that you all have, St. Louis or in the greater area, or even further than that. I really love what you guys are cooking up here. And very valid. Cardinals fans, you guys are super smart. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It is mentioned in the chat, and I would agree, it would be great to see Paul Goldschmidt again. Having started out the year pretty hot, batting leadoff for the Yankees. I think they've changed things up a little bit now that they've got some tweaks in their lineup, and they've got a lot to play for, certainly. But being able to see, a former 1964 World Series rival up and at it. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder in the back, I've got David Halberstram's October 1964 novel. Love it. And yeah, some good memories in this series between the Cardinals and the Yankees. It would be a good time to get back on track. The wild card stuff is starting to feel a little bit. There's just not enough momentum behind it. It's not. This team would absolutely have to go on a tear, and just we haven't seen since the first couple months enough of a ride behind this team to really feel confident. I mean, I like Ollie. He's a good guy and has a great future in this game, or at least a good future in this game. He's a good manager. There are good players that I've known on this team that are coming up maybe towards the end of their career. And it's just, it's sad, but it's also on days like this. It's a stab wound in your pride. It just hurts. It hurts. And it's also just agitating. Very agitating.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, 2 out of 3, I think you win today, you keep hope alive. You're within, then you could get to 3 games by Friday. Mets maybe lose 1. You're right around there. But now being 4 back or 4.5 back with the chance to get worse, Maybe a sweep, Luke, would have been enough to convince me there was enough momentum behind this, winning 3 against the Rockies and winning series against the Dodgers and Cubs. But I just think this team's too inconsistent. And when you give the youth a chance, I guess that's what happens at times. I just think it'd be beneficial, hopefully, these last month and a half, just a little bit of competitive baseball, especially when a lot of these guys are going to be on the team next year, and you want to see how they fare for that. Got to give as many opportunities as you can to those young guys right now.
5.3% chance for the Cardinals to make the postseason right now per Fangraphs. Final thoughts, Grant Salzman, before we wrap up this 6-5 loss at the hands of the Colorado Rockies and a series loss on this Wednesday afternoon.
I mean, I don't know if there's anything that we haven't said. Embarrassing, pathetic, unacceptable. I think those are all pretty good words to describe it. But hey, you got more games. I mean, this series against the Yankees, you win 2 out of 3. I think on Sunday night, Cardinals fans will maybe be having a totally different reaction to everything. And the Mets are struggling. Who's to say that the Cardinals with some wins couldn't stay within contention here?
Let's go eat some gooey butter cake and suppress this memory, bury it in sugar. Final score tonight, Colorado Rockies 6 and the St. Louis Cardinals 5. Good evening, everyone. Stay safe. Love you guys. He's Grant Salzman. Thank you so much, Grant. You're a smart cookie. I like you.
I appreciate it, Luke. It was a good time.
All right, this has been STL Sports Central. Take care.